And President Reagan wrapping up the campaign in his home state of California. He'd like to hear "Hail to the Chief" for another 4 years.
Decision 84, election preview with Tom Brokaw.
We want to show you about what is going on in this big NBC News map that we have behind us here. There have been a lot of polls in this campaign. A lot of people think that there have been too many polls. Anyway, the NBC News election unit has been looking at all of those polls, talking to experts in both parties in all of the states, and it has come up with a snapshot of where the country seems to be on this election eve. Seems to be. The only sure bet for Mondale tonight seems to be the District of Columbia, so we'll color that red in our big NBC News election map. Red will be Walter Mondale's color tomorrow night. And these are the states that seem to be strong for Ronald Reagan or leaning his way, so they're colored blue on the map. Now, the rest of the states that are figured to be contestable, that is up for grabs or where Mondale has a chance, you can see those there: Iowa, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, places like Maryland. As I say, that's a rough consensus.
Too close to call. Maryland, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania. When they come along, we'll bring them to you.
David, that's it. I apologize.
No, I think that's a national election.
That's the national picture at 22 minutes past the hour. Senator Gary Hart, who you will recall through much of the primary campaign was Walter Mondale's primary opponent. Senator Hart, thank you for joining us. Let me ask you first whether or not you think that any Democrat this year could have beaten Ronald Reagan.
Well, I think that's, first of all, a hypothetical question that we'll never know the answer to. I think, first of all, we have to congratulate the president on his showing. But I also want to say a word on Fritz Mondale's behalf. He waged a decent and courageous campaign. I was with him earlier this year, this fall, when he decided to try to win the presidency. He could have opted to try to carry the Democratic states and lose respectably, if you will. But he wanted to win, and I thought it was the right choice at the time, and I think it says volumes about him.
I don't think a great many people would disagree with you on Mr. Mondale's grace in adversity, Senator, particularly in the waning days of the campaign. Would you like to take another run at that question as to whether or not you think anybody might have done better? You used to say that you'd do better.
No, I don't. I don't want to take a run at it.
You don't want to take a run at it?
No, I think it's hypothetical, and it doesn't serve any particular purpose now to try to speculate as to what might have happened under different circumstances. I think Fritz Mondale waged a tremendously courageous campaign, and my hat is off to him.
Senator, we have some figures here from exit polling during the day that we find interesting, and I think maybe you will. It shows what those who voted for you during the primaries did today. And what it shows is that 71% of those who voted for you in the primaries voted for Mondale. 29% of them voted for Reagan.
In New York City, it is 9:30 in the east, 8:30 in the west. The polls are beginning to close through the Midwest and the mountain states now and out into the west. Let us take a look at what the popular vote is showing at the moment. 18% of the precincts, that's a national figure you're looking at, with 18% of the popular vote showing Mr. Reagan is getting about 60% of it, a little more than 10 million votes.
What do you make of that?
Well, it doesn't surprise me a bit. I think Mr. Mondale ran a very good race, but there's no Democrat alive that could have beaten Mr. Reagan this election. I think that Mr. Mondale has about all the votes that he's going to get.
Senator, some people would argue that, in fact, are already arguing that what we're seeing tonight with this map turning red for Reagan all the way across the country is sort of a culmination of what began with your very significant defeat in 1964, this shift. Do you think so?
No, I don't agree with that. I think American politics go around in circles. We've had a long spell of liberalism, ultra-liberalism, radicalism, and now the country is going back towards conservatism, and I think it will be that way for probably 20 years, and then the Republican Party will run out of steam, just like the Democrats have run out.
Mondale has not actually lived in Minnesota for about 20 years. He's lived in Washington. But nevertheless, it's his home state. He grew up there, and there you see the first blue state on the ABC News map. Minnesota for Monday. Only 3 states on the mainland of the U.S., 48 states left white because we haven't been able to project them yet because they're still voting.
He is our president, and we honor him tonight. Again tonight, the American people, in town halls, in homes, in firehouses, in libraries, chose the occupant of the most powerful office on earth. Their choice was made peacefully, with dignity, and with majesty. And although I would have rather won, Tonight, we rejoice in our democracy. We rejoice in the freedom of a wonderful people, and we accept their verdict. I thank the people of America for hearing my case. I have traveled this nation, I believe, more than any living American. And wherever I've gone, the American people have heard me out. They've listened to me. They've treated me fairly. They've lifted my spirits, and they've added to my strength. And if there's one thing I'm certain of, it is that this is a magnificent nation with the finest people on earth.
There is the map, blue for Ronald Reagan, red for Walter Mondale, and then the states that we've not been able to project are Massachusetts and Minnesota. Only the District of Columbia tonight for Walter Mondale. It is Massachusetts.
If he picks up his home state, Tom, he will beat Alf Landon, the current holder of the record, because in 1936, Alf Landon got only 8 electoral votes against FDR.
It's not the kind of victory that he was looking for.
No, not at all.
No. Presidential candidate, the first woman to run for that office in a major party ticket.
Campaign ends. The race is over. This is not a moment for partisan statements. It is a moment to celebrate our democracy and to think of our country. The American people have put their trust in President Reagan. And in the interest of the nation, with hope for the future, I ask all Americans to join together, work together, and pledge our support for our president in the search for a more just society, a strong America, and a world at peace. America is a great nation, but if there's one thing that our campaign has stood for, it is that our country can be even greater. Let me say to our supporters throughout the country, to my staff, my family, and my friends, we fought hard, we gave it our best, and we made a difference.
Against the president. Do you think now, in light of what's happened, it would have made any difference?
No, he probably ran against the most popular figure in the history of our government. There's no question that Reagan was extremely popular. He had a great tide going for him. The economy was pretty good. But even in areas where the unemployment was still high, he carried every facet of the public out there, men, women, poor. It's just his own personal popularity. There's no question about it. It's back a couple of months ago when I was at a parade in my city when some women said to me, Mr. Speaker, we love you, keep fighting the president, but we love Ronald Reagan, we're going to vote for him. It didn't gel to me because our philosophies, but it was the same way no matter where we went.
Now here's George Bush, who has been living in a hotel in Houston as his unofficial residence in that state. Mrs. Bush on the far right, members of his family, including his brother and some of his sons, their wives.
You've been here 5 hours. Where'd you get all that energy? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you.
That's the president's brother that you can see with the glasses in the background. Look at the hair in that family. I mean, he's older than the president.
I think that's just been arranged. Well, thank you all very much. It seems we did this 4 years ago, and let me just say, well, you know, good habits are hard to break. Just a short time ago, Walter Mondale phoned me, and he concede. No, and he told me that the people had made their decision, and therefore we were all Americans. We'd go forward together. So we set out, I remember, back those almost 20 years ago, and said that we could start a prairie fire here in California, one that would capture the intensity of our devotion to freedom and the strength of our commitment to American ideals. Well, we began to carry a message to every corner of the nation, a simple message. The message is, here in America, the people are in charge. And that's really why we're here tonight. This electoral victory belongs to you and the principles that you cling to, principles struck by the brilliance and bravery of patriots more than 200 years ago. They set forth the course of liberty and hope that makes our country special in the world. To the extent that what has happened today reaffirms those principles, we are part of that prairie fire that we still think defines America, a fire of hope that will keep alive the promise of opportunity as we head into the next century. We've come together again, we're united again, and now let's start building together and keep that prairie fire alive, and let's never stop shaping that society which lets each person's dreams unfold into a life of unending hope. America's best days lie ahead, and you know, you forgive me, I'm gonna do it just one more time. You ain't seen nothing yet. God bless you. Thank you all very much.